And we have said it that tomorrow will not belong to us. They have been cheated for too long.
9 to 11% because they believe in investing in the youth. Is there a reason you think Nigeria cannot improve on this? And how would you go about rectifying this statistic?
We will have to increase that immediately, but it has to be done in a very strategic way as well. It's to ensure that apart from the natural allocation to education, we have interventions in the education sector. That is to say, funding right now comes from the budget in a way that intervention funds are also available, but we are treating them as slush funds. Even the 5.2% you're talking about don't get to education, they don't get to educate people. Half of it is mostly stolen by our leaders. So the surest way to do it is to increase allocation to education through taxation. I know we're doing that through education tax already, but as I have said repeatedly, our collection rate for taxes is too low. We're about 7.6%, and the sub-Saharan African region is about 15%, which means that we can double our taxes, not increase them, but the collection rate, to the extent that right now we have about $35 billion, which is collected to fund our budget. But that can quickly and rapidly go to almost 70 billion if we are appropriately collecting from people who actually owe us taxes and plugging the loopholes that have exploited the corruption that has made it impossible for us to collect appropriately. And we allocate at that point over 10% to 50% of our national budget to education. If we don't educate our kids, we are destroying the future of the country.
As diversity becomes the watchword of the international community, Nigeria still appears to be rather nepotist in their delegation of position, with majority of the parastatals being run by Northerners. Do you think we need a quota system to rectify what some will view as discrimination in political appointments?
It's not. We already have a quota system in place. In fact, there's a Federal Character Commission in charge of ensuring that every part of Nigeria is employed or appointed into sensitive positions at the federal level. But, these commissions only do the bidding of the president. So whenever you have a president from the north, you get more northerners in position of authority in the country and employment. If you get his president for the south, that's the same thing that's happening. It's not a northern thing. It just happened that when you have more people who've been president of Nigeria from the north, the preponderance of appointments and employment into the federal civil service comes from them. If you have from the southwest, that's what you get. When you have from the south, that's what we got with the aviation ministry the other time. You just have people appointed and employed into all those places depending on who their people are. You don't really have Nigerian leaders. You have wheeler dealers running Nigeria. That's the biggest problem.
Ownership of oil block appears to most Nigerians as the siphoning of what should be completely national assets. Do you agree with this statement? And it's right that often go to influential families, often not even from the indigenous lands of the oil itself, while inhabitants of the land often live in poverty and bear the brunt of the exposure of pollution?
Yes, I agree that it has happened to people who are close to people in power. We have in this country a woman who is recognized as a hairdresser, got an oil block that's probably one of the most lucrative. Also an army general, retired now, got one that was so big that he split into three, sold one for $500 million. And he's still swimming in wealth, after having sold half of it to the Chinese. One of the things that we do is to also start allocating oil blocks to universities so that we can also use that to finance education. There's no reason why universities, can train people who will own oil blocks and can't own oil blocks.
That's true. Speaking of the Chinese,
yes.
Some people are worried about an impending Chinese economic colonization.
Yes.
So we see rail work, road works, and other such long-term infrastructure work being facilitated by Chinese companies all around Nigeria. Is this because Nigeria lacks the capacity to build these things? Or is there a sort of debt trading offer we offer the Chinese and they're giving and we might be able to pay back in a couple of years. Is there something we can do for at least to force foreign companies to align with local content, like the oil and gas industry?
So there's a local content law actually in Nigeria that offers in companies opportunities in the sector. But what are they doing? The moment they get the licenses, they turn around and sell it to the Chinese, they sell it to the Americans, they sell it to Europeans. And so it defeats the essence of the technological or knowledge transfer that could have happened through local, ownership of oil, assets in the oil and gas sector. I am saying that just don't worry too much about the Chinese. Try and make Chinese of your country and educate your people. Let them have the knowledge and technological know-how to do what the Chinese is doing today. The Chinese people used to be like that too. They relied on every part of the world to get things done until they woke up one day, had their own cultural revolution, started building railway bridges, and the moment they mastered it, they started exporting whatever they had to the rest of the world. Nigeria could have been doing the same, if not to the world, but to the continent of Africa. But what do we have to export now? Terrorism, fraud, and, terribly bad leadership. The only positive thing we have to export to the world is music, movies, education to our people. So we haven't done that. We haven't created power. We have been investing in darkness. $16 billion went down the drain in the last 16 or 20 years. We don't even know what the APC government spent, but PDP at least invested $16 billion in darkness. And we will find out very soon what APC did with investment in power. First and foremost, we have to invest in generating power. We must move from 3,000 megawatts of electricity to at least 24,000. We must target over 40 million households like they did in Egypt, so that we have 24/7 electricity before we start thinking about, what other measures we should do. Of course, I agree that we should decentralize. We should be using, technologically driven mini-grid systems. We should invest in renewable solar energy, which can be done faster than hydro. We should, figure out a way to evacuate gas without interruption by militants, which we can do by trucking as an alternative to piping gas to power plants that are used by that uses gas. So you have all of these measures in place, but the most important thing is to close our eyes and invest in generation first, and transmit seamlessly and distribute to households. And in addition to power, now let's talk energy. We, in this country, we don't even have gas pipelines supplying homes directly. That's a huge opportunity there. And the moment you start doing this, you are providing employment for nothing less than 2 to 3 to 5 million people if we actually tackle power the way we should, as they've done in North African countries, particularly where they use renewable, a combination of sources of generation of power. So it's going to be one of my main priorities to put an end to darkness, light up Nigeria.
How do you intend to tackle pollution, recycling, and bringing Nigeria into the 21st century?
We should separate it, in several ways. First, what kind of pollution are we talking about, which is different from recycling? Our biggest issue with pollution is in the oil producing regions of Niger Delta, and we must clean up our acts there. And this has to do with, first and foremost, forcing the companies to engage in global best practices in oil exploration. For those who have destroyed the environment, make them help clean up. It could be a joint effort between the companies, United Nations that actually come in to help us. But we haven't been serious. There's been an opportunity to clean up Ogoni land in the last 4 years. They have not mobilized a single truck down to the sites. And if you clean up Ogoni land very well, you have over 9 billion cubic feet of gas there that's available for us to tap into in the nearest future. In terms of recycling, and dealing with pollutants, they also have to do with power generation. You cannot, for instance, not understand that part of the reason why Lagos is highly polluted, different parts of Nigeria is highly polluted, is because we are using generators to power homes. The moment you get rid of that through the intervention that we have in power, you reduce pollutants by a huge amount. Recycling is a function of, laws and also, practice. It's easier if you have a government, before people can recycle, you at least have to provide them with waste bins on the outside. You have to help them take away their waste. Government is not doing that. Government is failing in every sector. It becomes difficult for you to go and make one big law that people must separate plastic from waste. Who's going to do that when the one that they throw outside of their home, nobody's picking it up as they should on a daily basis? And by the way, recycling or, waste disposal in proper ways is also a source of energy. So we have a lot out there to gain from doing these things right. And in addition to the fact that there is a climate agreement and treaty out there that we can benefit from if we do things right. Billions and billions of dollars are available to tap into, when we cut our emission appropriately. Yes.
Considering the remuneration you receive, along with other benefits that occur to you, do you think that you earn significantly higher than the average public servant? Since it's a position of service, do you think you deserve such monetary compensation? How do you intend to change those laws?
I am not president yet, so I don't know if I can answer that, directly. But what I know is that we have in our plan a decision to increase minimum wages from the miserable rate they are now to a living wage that can help our workers increase their purchasing power and jumpstart the local economy. That's the plan. What you have in Nigeria is that there are two different sides on the wage scale. There are people who are earning maximum wage, and their wage is infinitely, elastic. Yes. And those who are earning minimum wage and their wages are infinitely inelastic. That is, you can't go beyond 30,000. So we have to bring everything to work in such a way that everybody that is a federal worker, starting from or with federal worker and a living wage, and our starting point is 100,000 naira. And for those who are earning the maximum wage, we've discovered that they are mostly earning illegal wage. Senators who are earning 14 million naira actually should be earning 1 million naira. Whereas those who are earning 30,000 naira now actually should be earning way more than that. And we're going to start implementing that so that we can bridge the gap between the maximum wage and the minimum wage.
So, final word before you go. Tell the viewers why you would like them to vote for you.
Do it to this camera.
Yes.
Straight up to the camera.
Well, it's Nigerians. Here is an opportunity again to move in a different direction. Here's an opportunity to change the course of our nation. It's an opportunity to change the course of our fortune. Another opportunity to change our leaders to the ones that are working for us as opposed to those who are working against us. And if you vote for Omoyele Sowore, myself, on February 16, 2019, which coincidentally is my birthday, that opportunity is knocking right on your door and will make Nigeria become one of the greatest nations on earth as soon as we're given the opportunity to start work. And it will happen during our lifetime. Thank you.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is yours.
Yeah.